Hello and welcome to Market Open Direct Connect, a webinar series for companies to tell their story, why it's compelling, and why it's an opportunity to invest. I'm your host, Stuart Walters, and we're joined here today by Steve Lydeamore, CEO of Immuron Limited, ASX code IMC. Steve will provide a company update and will also participate in a Q&A post-presentation. If you do have any questions, you can submit them through the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. It's time to introduce our guest. Steve, welcome to Direct Connect, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart, and good morning, everybody. Just quickly, apart from being listed on the ASX under IMC, we're also listed on NASDAQ. ADRs trade under IMRN. The purpose of the webinar today is to give you an update on the IMM-124E Travelan Phase 2 trial. We have some additional data to share with you, but I thought before we move into that, because there may be new investors not familiar with the Immuron story, I'll just give you a quick overview. So we are a small biotech company. As of December, we had about $15 million in cash, currently trading at a market cap of around $20 million, so relatively low enterprise value for the value that we bring. And we have 3 therapeutic products in 4 clinical programs, and one of those therapeutics is IMM-124E Travelan, which we'll be talking about today, but I'll quickly touch on some of the others. So we have CAMP-ETEC, which is also a phase 2 therapeutic. We just completed that phase 2 study, and that program's due to report out this month as well. So that's very soon coming up. We have IMM-529 for Clostridioides difficile, or C. diff, a big antimicrobial resistance type problem, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming slides. We just filed pre-IND with the FDA. We're planning to get IND approval and move that one into the clinic, phase 2 study next calendar year. Travelan is also in a phase 4 study with the Uniformed Services University, large study, 866 subjects, which are active US and UK military personnel travelling to high-risk regions. That's about 77% of the way through recruitment, so we've recruited quite a few of those. They're on track for completing recruitment and dosing by the end of the calendar year, and I'm anticipating that we'll report out top-line data in the first quarter of next calendar year, so a good milestone of clinicals coming up. Just quickly on, we're a commercial company. We're selling Travelan over the counter in Australia, US, and Canada. We just had a record year. So we completed the year ended June with almost $5 million in sales, and that's more than double our pre-pandemic peak, and a big increase, 174% up on last financial year, which was 1.8 million, and even last year that was up more than 100%. So growth trajectories are quite strong, and we hope to continue that growth through the new financial year just started. Let's just have a look at the market size. So this is a $1 billion market, and Travelan itself, we're currently doing around 5 million. We've assessed that if we get 15% penetration in the US market, that's worth around $83 million, and about 50 million for the same Travelan market in European market. So we're looking to move into that European market hopefully this financial year through probably first entry in UK. And that Clostridioides difficile market, so that's IMM-529, that's a $1.7 billion market, so large market, dominated by antibiotics. We're looking at taking a subset of that initially, second recurrence. Estimated revenue for that's around $100 million per year in the US alone, so big opportunity for these therapeutic products. Our technology platform, just quickly go through that. So we develop specific vaccines that we give to pregnant cows. They're targeted to pathogens. So in the case of Travelan, that's 13 different types of enterotoxigenic E. coli. CAMP-ETEC is a conjugated vaccine targeting both Campylobacter and ETEC, and the IMM-529 is targeting Clostridioides difficile. So quite an elegant platform. We inoculate the cow. The cow produces polyclonal antibodies in response to that. We collect that first milk called colostrum, which has those polyclonal antibodies, and we process that into a powder and compress that into a tablet, which becomes our product. We have therapeutic claims in Australia and Canada. We're able to market for both the reduction of occurrence, i.e. prevention, and also for relief of travellers' diarrhoea. Unfortunately, we can't quite do the same in the US yet, and that's why we're doing these clinical trials that I'm talking about today. Just quickly, if you want to see in pictures what this looks like. So without Travelan, you can see this is E-Tech burrowing into the gut wall and doing damage. And on the right down the bottom there, you can see what happens when you get Travelan. So it glutenates those bacteria, neutralizes the toxin at the source, and allows the body to clear it without causing damage. Okay, on to the topic of the day. So IMM-124E phase 2 Travelan study. So what additional data do we have? You'll recall back in March 7, we reported our top line data, the primary endpoint being moderate to severe diarrhea, that we achieved a 36.4% protective efficacy. This was impacted by the low attack rate in the study. So we thought we'd take a bit of a closer look at this, and we found that there were some subjects that did not experience diarrhea until after they were administered antibiotics, which were part of the intent to treat protocol. And we thought that was a bit unfair to penalise a group for getting diarrhea when it may have been caused by those antibiotics. So we had a look at what impact that has, and we looked at the 5-day post-challenge before that antibiotic administration. And we thought we'd also have a look at, you recall that we had the very good results with this phase 2 trial against severe diarrhea. We thought, let's have a look at what happens at the lower end of the scale. So we looked at all diarrhea of all types in this analysis, and interestingly, we found that there was a 43.8% reduction in diarrhea of any severity in the Travelan group as compared to placebo, which is approaching statistical significance, very close there, 0.066. And we'll just have a quick look at the data. It shows you in a trial with small subject numbers how a change in classification of a few subjects makes a big difference. So without adjusting for that antibiotic usage, you can see here that non-statistically significant, but still a big improvement over placebo. Once you take out those patients that may have got diarrhea due to antibiotics being administered per protocol, it reduces it significantly. We show that big advantage, 43.8% versus placebo, approaching that statistical significance of 0.066. So a great result. We thought we'd have a look at it in a different way, and we have a Kaplan-Meier plot here, which I'm not going to read all of this out. You can read this at your own leisure. This is the logic behind this test, but essentially the Kaplan-Meier plot shows that Travelan as a therapeutic treatment has a higher survival probability over time compared to the placebo group, suggesting that the therapeutic treatment is effective in delaying the onset of diarrhea. So not only are we showing less diarrhea, we're also delaying the onset of that diarrhea. And let's have a look at that in a graphical form here. So Travelan's the red curve there, the blue is the placebo curve. You can see quite clearly that the red curve moves down later, so delayed onset of diarrhea, and also it's higher, showing that less people get diarrhea on the Travelan group. In fact, there's only a 50% chance of diarrhea up to day 6, which is the day that antibiotics are administered in the Travelan group, but much higher percentage chance in the placebo group. We also showed a significant reduction in adverse events. So the number of events was reduced in the Travelan treated group for all organ classes, and I'm sharing here with you today those statistics. So whether it be GI, nervous system, musculoskeletal, general disorders, skin tissue, infections, etc., big percentage reductions compared to placebo for the Travelan group. So a good result there. Also, just for your reference, I'm not going to go through these. This is the details on the subjects which were enrolled in each group, and the demographics showing the sex, ethnicity, and race, similar between the two groups, which you would expect for a placebo-controlled trial. So what does this all mean? We plan to take this initial data set, the top line data, together with this additional data that we've generated. The full clinical study report will be compiled and completed by September, and we will submit that to the FDA and request an end of phase 2 meeting. Initially, that meeting will discuss the chemistry manufacturing controls, or how the product Travelan is manufactured, and we'll have another follow-up meeting with them to discuss the phase 3 clinical protocol. So our plan remains the same, to move into phase 3 in the second half of next calendar year. We still believe that will be 2 phase 3 trials, each taking approximately 2 years, and hopefully we can run those in parallel, which are necessary for the FDA to consider Travelan as a BLA. So that's a biologics license application approved for prevention of travelers' diarrhea. I might just pause there, and before Stuart opens this up for Q&A, in the slide deck, just reminding people that are new and are not familiar with this, we have all of our scientific references here. So we have a big body of evidence behind Travelan, not just these studies we're talking about today. We've done preclinical research in the lab, in animal models. We've worked with the armed forces and the Army and the Navy and local universities like Monash and CSIRO and the like. And we've got peer-reviewed published papers here which show our journey and the strong data set sitting behind Travelan, and also for IMM-124E there for Clostridium difficile, which was developed in conjunction with local university, Monash. Very exciting program. So I might quickly move back. My contact information here for those that are not willing to or wanting to ask questions today, please feel free to contact me. My email and phone number is there. And I'll hand back to you, Stuart, for a Q&A session. Thank you.
Steve, thank you. Fantastic presentation, extremely informative, and I'm sure we've all been there at some stage. So it's nice to have the option. We've had some great questions come in. What value does this additional data add to the substantial body of evidence you have for Travelan, and how do you intend to use it?
Yeah, that is a good question. Look, we have previous phase 2 studies, so we've done a number of those, and you recall these are called the Otto studies that showed up to 90.9% efficacy in preventing travelers' diarrhea. These were conducted in the dosing regime that we use for the over-the-counter product that was 3 times daily. The phase 2 that we're talking about today is once daily dosing, which was requested by the Department of Defence that's funding these studies. Not quite the same efficacy, but part of that was due to that attack rate being lower. And the more we look at the data, we see whichever measure we look at, whether it's efficacy, whether it's mild, moderate, severe, adverse events, time to onset, time to recovery, all of the data is pointing at a strong body of evidence for Travelan working in preventing and relieving travelers' diarrhea. We'll present all of that data together with the strong safety data set, and I shared more of that with you today with the FDA during our end of phase 2 meeting, and we'll have a follow-up meeting to get a phase 3 protocols reviewed and approved, and our plan is to move into that the clinic again in phase 3 in the second half of next calendar year.
What other work have you conducted ahead of the end of phase 2 meeting with the FDA?
Yes, as you would imagine, this trial alone is not sufficient. So I mentioned before that the first protocols at CMC section, so the chemistry manufacturing controls, that's a big part of a review by the FDA. And we plan to meet with them and discuss that. And we've done a huge amount of work. We market this as an over-the-counter dietary supplement in the US, and so we need to make sure that it's up to that pharmaceutical biologic manufacturing standards. We've done a huge amount of work to get ready for that part of the meeting. We're also started to talk to potential contract research organisations and the like for recruitment and getting this phase 3 trial up and running. There's no point having a meeting with the FDA and agreeing a protocol and then saying, well, now where are we going to do it and how are we going to do it? So we're a long way down the track of preparing for those phase 3 studies as well.
Your business updating indicates that you're 77% recruited in the large 866 participant Travelan phase 4 study. What are the next steps on this and how will you use the data?
Yeah, so this is, I just mentioned before, the original Lotto studies for Travelan phase 2 were in 3 times daily dosing. And this study that we've been talking about today was once daily dosing. The Uniformed Services University, which is part of the US Department of Defense, are running that large phase 4 study with our over-the-counter US product in a twice daily dosing trial. So it will give another indication as to how many times a day do you need to take this to be effective. And this is in a real world setting. So this is what makes this really interesting. It's a trial design that is similar to what we expect the phase 3 protocol to be approved by the FDA. So this is in people are traveling to high risk regions and they're exposed not just to terotoxigenic E. coli, as was administered in the phase 2 study. They'll be exposed to all pathogens, and that any bacterial pathogens, viruses, you name it, they're exposed to it, and that they could be the cause of diarrhea. The good thing we know that Travelan, through the work that we did with AFRIMS in their Thailand research facility, that we have broad spectrum activity against a wide range of pathogens, and up to 180 different pathogens where we showed that Travelan was effective against. So we're quite confident going into that phase 3 trial that maybe it makes it easier to show separation from placebo given that broad spectrum activity that we have.
Another great question here. Why do you only use 1 dose per day on trial, and will you use 3 doses per day in the next trial?
Yes, I just mentioned that. So the 1 dose per day was at the request of the US Department of Defense that was funding the study. Ideally, when warfighters are going into combat zones, they prefer to just take it that once a day, not having to remember to take it sort of middle of the day and in the evening. The Uniformed Services University trial is doing it twice a day, morning and evening, and showing that there's reasonably good compliance with that. So twice daily dosing is probably okay. Look, the trial results for that Uniformed Services University trial are due at the end of the year. We'll report that out in the first quarter of next calendar year. That could be informative for what this phase 3 trial design would be used. So that study will be used as supportive for our BLA application with the FDA. Unlikely to go ahead with a once daily dosing in the phase 3 trial, but it could be 3 or twice a day.
I apologise if I get some of the pronunciation wrong, but is there any difference between the Travelan and Protection?
Protectin is the other brand that we sell. Look, the products themselves are similar, same active drug substance, IMM-124E. Travelan's targeting the prevention and relief of travellers' diarrhea. With Protectin, we're trying to do something different. So some investors or shareholders may recall that Immuron did studies in liver disease setting and had a successful phase 1-2 study showing that we could reduce liver damage. And on the back of those studies, we have TGA claims for protection of the liver. And so Protectin is marketed separately from Travelan, not in that pharmacy channel, but in the alternate health channel for gut and liver protection.
And you said that top-line data from Camp ETEC phase 2 trial is due this month. What value does this add to Immuron?
Yes, it is. Look, this study, both the Army and Navy are really looking forward to it. This has been developed using a vaccine developed by the Department of Defense. So they've been working for years on human vaccines to try and prevent these infections without success. And so we're using their vaccine in a cow to produce an indirect effect through polyclonal antibodies produced by the cow in response to that vaccine. This will be if it works, and we're highly hopeful that it will, it'll be the first demonstration that their vaccine can produce a therapeutic effect in humans. So they're very much looking forward to it, as are we. And if we can show that success, we'll be able to add to Travelan. So Travelan's targeting ETEC, although I did mention it had broad spectrum activity against other pathogens. One of the pathogens that has relatively low activity against is Campylobacter. And Campylobacter is prevalent in many of the regions that the US Department of Defense travels to. And some people going on holidays also travel to some of those regions. We'd be looking at developing an improved version of Travelan, if you like, combining colostrum powders from both IMM-124E and CAMP-ETEC into a super improved new model. So that would be the plan going forward with that.
Is the US Defence Force likely to fund the phase 3 trials?
Look, we certainly hope so, and that's certainly our plan to try and make that happen, but I can't promise that it will. Although, that said, they have funded preclinical all the way up to phase 2. Are they likely to cut us off and stop funding us for that last step that requires, we're required to do phase 3 studies in order to get FDA approval, and they want our product to be approved by the FDA. So we're quite hopeful that they will, but we can't promise the same.
What dosing will the phase 3 be at, or is that yet to be determined? If the phase 3 proceeds at 1 a day dosing, will that allow to make product claims across all dosing regimes?
I think we just talked about that. So I think it's unlikely that it will be once a day because the protective efficacy rate, notwithstanding the impact of the lower attack rate, we don't want to repeat that phase 2 study. So we're likely to go with either 3 times a day or twice a day, depending on the outcome of that Uniform Services University trial.
Thank you. So we got one more that's come through. What are the next steps for IMM-529 C. diff program that you recently filed pre-IND?
Yeah, so pre-IND allows you to have a discussion with the FDA, and we are, in fact, going to have that discussion with the FDA in September, so we're not too far away from having that discussion. In order to get an IND approved, which is what's required before you can go into human clinical trials, we need to submit an IND application, and that includes a lot of CMC type stuff. So we've been collaborating with our collaborators, so the Monash and CSIRO, in manufacturing new clinical substance of IMM-529 and doing a battery of tests, getting ready for that meeting with the FDA.
Steve, thank you for that. Extremely informative presentation and some great questions. More information about Immuron, head to the company website, immuron.com.au, and you can follow the company's social media platforms. Thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar. Another fantastic presentation. If you'd like to hear from a specific company, please send me an email, stuart@marketopen.com.au, and I'll reach out to that company on your behalf. Steve, thanks for your time today. Keep up the great work and look forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. And just once again, contact information's here on this presentation, which has been published both on the ASX and our website. Please feel free to reach out. Thank you.